Hello, and welcome to today's lecture. The topic of today's lecture is how to inspire joy among the audience when giving a speech. I hope by the end of this lecture you will have some idea as to how to inspire an audience to feel joy when you next give a speech. The emotion of joy, to me, seems like quite a complex emotion, as opposed to feelings of danger and feeling unsafe. The reason for this is joy, to me, seems to be an emotion that is primarily inspired by the spiritual, by the personal, and other things. Whereas emotions such as fear seem to be as a result of a perceived threat or a perceived environmental factor. Whereas joy, it needs to make someone feel joy, they need to feel safe, which is, I would say, primarily a sensory thing. You have to appeal to someone's senses so they feel safe. But I think joy takes a lot more to feel than just feeling safe. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not necessarily feeling joy when I'm at home safe. I might feel relieved after I've just been climbing in the rain or something. I might feel relieved when I get home, but I wouldn't say that's quite the same thing as joy. Why do words inspire joy? As previously stated, I don't think appealing to someone's senses using language is enough to make them feel joy. I'm not saying that certain smells, certain tastes, or words that reflect those senses won't make a person feel joy. However, what I would suggest is, in terms of senses, appealing to someone's senses, the sense and the person's reaction to feeling that sense, whether it's the taste of almonds or the taste of chocolate, will be different depending on the person. For example, some people might have very positive memories with almonds, and other people might be allergic to nuts and have very negative emotions or emotional reactions that are related to the smell of almonds. So what I would say is that appealing to someone's senses using language is very effective. However, if you're trying to make the audience feel joy, you've got to appeal to something more than their primal senses. I would argue that it is essential to make an audience feel joy to appeal to the spiritual feelings. The quote I have below is a quote from Oswald Spengler. For those of you who don't know, Oswald Spengler is a mid-century German thinker. I'd certainly recommend reading him. Whether or not you agree with him is up to you, but he has some interesting takes. Oswald Spengler has the idea that numbers are different depending on the ethnic group. I would like to expand this reasoning and take it from numbers to what inspires joy, and the spiritual feelings of an ethnic group will be different depending on the ethnic group. So I would suggest that what might appeal to the spiritual nature of a British person in a positive way will not necessarily create the same emotional reaction among an Arab or another ethnic group. As previously stated, it's essential to encourage an audience to feel joy. They need to feel safe. So, what makes someone feel safe? What senses make people feel safe? Generally, it's things like senses like feeling warm and feeling cold is probably going to make someone feel anxious because being cold is dangerous, whereas being warm is not. So once you use language that appeals to the primary senses that will likely make a person feel safe, you need to do something more with your language and appeal to the spiritual. you need to make someone not only feel safe, but feel joy, go that bit further in terms of their emotional reaction. And as previously stated, I don't think it's enough, or the senses are capable of making someone feel joy. I think joy is a far more spiritual emotion, whereas feeling scared or fear is a far more primal emotion that is based on the senses. What makes people feel joy in terms of spiritual joy? I would suggest that friends, family, and leisure are all going pretty universal in terms of encouraging people to feel joy, regardless of ethnic group. However, what I would say is there will be other things that are specific to different ethnic groups that will likely encourage members of that ethnic group to feel joy. But what I want to get across is when you're doing a speech and you want people to feel joy, you need to use words that are linked to the joy-bringing activity. So I've got them listed here: friends, family, and leisure normally makes people feel joy. So what I would suggest is, if you're using language that is linked to family, that's likely going to bring joy among the audience members, because family, normally, unless someone's ridiculously unfortunate, is a joyful thing. Family is positive, they look after you, they make you feel happy, and so on. So, in terms of making someone feel joy or encouraging them to feel joy during a speech, what you need to do is you need to use language that is associated with joyful activities: friends, family, leisure, and so on. What words commonly inspire joy? What I would say is that using words and phrases to make someone feel joy is a two-step process. You first need to make them feel safe. But I think there are words that are likely to inspire joy. So bright, safe, warm, soft, active, victory. Words such as these are probably more likely to make someone feel joy than not. And this is probably because most people have a positive association with the word victory, with the word bright. Whereas when you get into far more descriptive words, or a broader range of descriptive words that appeal to the senses, it's probably not enough, or those words on their own probably aren't enough to make someone feel joy. In terms of more spiritual words, God, Jesus, King, church, love, and any reference to relationships is normally going to encourage a person to feel joy, because, as I think I've previously said, joy is a complex emotion, not a primal emotion that results from the senses. If you use words that link to relationships and allow the audience to associate their positive relationships with what you're saying, it's likely that the audience is going to feel joy. Phrases that encourage an audience to feel joy. With warm love, she clutched his hand. What's interesting here is you've got a word that has a sensory connotation, warm. It's a feeling. You can touch something that's warm, it's a sense. Whereas the word love has a more spiritual connotation. And what I would generally say is, for a phrase to inspire joy, you've generally got to have both types of words. A word that encourages the audience to feel safe and appeals to the senses, and then you have a word like love that appeals to the spiritual nature of the audience and its members. This phrase from the Iliad, Book 22, line 38, Hector, I beg you, dear son, I think is probably an exception. The phrase there is, there's nothing there that makes you feel safe, but beg you, dear son, is their words that link to relationships and positive relationships. In the context of the Iliad, Hecate, Hector's mother, is in tears, but I still think that words and phrases such as dear son, certainly, if used correctly, will likely inspire joy among audience members. What rhythmic structures are likely to inspire joy? Ring composition, I would say, is quite likely to inspire joy because it's interesting, it's not used that often, and because it's a ring structure and certain aspects repeat themselves, it's also likely to make the audience feel safe. And depending on what you're discussing, if you use ring structure, it is easier to encourage the audience to feel joy, especially if you're discussing topics of a spiritual nature or appeal to the spiritual memory of the audience. Mirroring and rhyming as well are likely to encourage the audience to feel joy because the audience will feel safe, or are more likely to feel safe, because certain aspects of the speech will already be familiar to them. What also can encourage joy is an erratic structure. However, normally, in my opinion, an erratic structure that is erratic in terms of themes inspires joy, whereas erratic volume and pace doesn't, because erratic volume and pace is very unlikely to make anybody feel safe, whereas if the pace and volume of a speech is consistent but the themes are erratic, it's interesting, and because of the interesting nature, the audience is more likely to feel joy because the pace and volume is consistent, so the audience is likely to feel safe. The surprise is a pleasant one because it doesn't threaten you in any way at the primal level. Pace and volume that inspires joy. Generally, what I would say in terms of pace and volume is if you have a loud volume and a slow pace, this is probably not a good idea because generally a loud volume and a slow pace can be perceived as quite threatening by the audience, whereas a fast pace and a neutral volume, if done correctly, can inspire joy within the audience. But this should be done carefully because generally unusually slow or unusually fast pace of speech normally encourages the audience to feel apprehensive because it's irregular. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope this was helpful, and if you've got any questions or there's anything you don't understand, please email me or put it in the comments. Thank you very much. Please like, subscribe, and all that.